And I never felt compelled to undertake a master's degree because I thought, well, I've never been to university, I've never done a degree, so I wasn't eligible. One, I just simply, made assumptions that I wasn't eligible. But I'd also spoken to many people, and this might resonate with you, particularly here in Australia, and I know it's the same in the US. The cost of a master's degree is incredibly high.
Yes.
I know people who've taken out second mortgages on their homes to manage it, right? I also understood that it would take 3 to 5 years of your life that you will never get back. There's a massive time commitment, high cost commitment, and in the busyness of life, it just didn't seem that it was going to be valid. And I started asking the people that I knew had done the traditional master's degree, what did you get out of that? What did you learn? And I actually had one of my good friends tell me, actually, I didn't really learn a lot. I got some great letters after my name, but often the lessons were sitting in a lecture hall with the professor, the academic, reading from a textbook. And I went, well, that doesn't inspire me to want to go and do that. And I just didn't make space for it. So I, had all these assumptions, cost, time. Am I going to learn anything that I can apply that's going to make a difference to what I want to do? Because we've all seen it. We've been in corporate roles where we've been employed. I've been employed, and always understood there was a ceiling in corporate unless I had those letters, unless I had the degree, unless I had the master's degree. I could only go so high. Now, whether that's right or wrong in corporate, and whether it's still as strong a desire of corporates, is not. We're not going to debate that because you could have a long conversation around that piece. But I also felt that therefore that was a barrier for me, that I wasn't going to get to the levels in corporate that I aspired to. I wasn't going to be able to get into senior management onto boards because I hadn't done the degree, hadn't done the master's. So what changed my mind? Well, having lots of conversations with Matt, and then he gave me access to the platform because I said I haven't actually seen this. I haven't dived into this platform. Let me look. Let me go and have a look. And it's everything's online. They've built an amazing resource library. You don't have to go buy textbooks. There's an enormous amount. But I started seeing these videos woven all through the content. Now, you've heard me speak of these global leaders before, Linda. And I'd
Mhm.
heard the story. Matt Jacobson is the owner of Desert Global Business School. And he spent the last 17 years, and I literally do not know how he got in front of these people, other than the fact that he bothered to ask. People like Desmond Tutu, Goldie Hawn, Julia Gillard, one of our previous prime ministers, people of such high caliber, you wonder, as I said, I wondered how he got in front of them. But I think he just had the audacity to say, hey, I would love to interview you to understand your business journey and the challenges you went through and all those sort of things. And so, woven through all this content were interviews with these amazing world leaders. Like he's got an interview with a CIA leader on negotiation skills. I seriously think we're going to learn some great stuff out of somebody with that skill set and that background. And I started realizing actually there's way more to this master's degree than I ever really considered because I don't have to have a degree to get into a DSER master's degree. I don't have to have one. I went, oh gosh, well, I've got lots of experiences in leadership and corporate world. That was going to tick that box. And looking at the price, incredibly cost effective from 12,000 US dollars. But the biggest thing, which none of us really enjoy, like I've done many, many certificates and diplomas, which are the lower level from degrees, and sat down to 3 hour exams. And like, even remembering from school, there are some people who, associate exams with absolute fear. They have the mental blocks, all that sort of stuff. And it's very old school in having somebody confirm that what you've learnt you remember. And really, that's how I see exams: is can you regurgitate something? And it was never a great experience for me either. And so when I realised, again, just had the epiphany, I don't have to do exams. I get to choose the project that I work on, and I chose to work on my business. and it's online and it's cost effective and I can get it done in 12 months. Like there was just all these ticks that, sometimes I'm a bit slow on the uptake, I would say. And I realized I now have time, I have capacity and I can do it. And so I signed up and I had it completed in 13 months, which is
Wow.
pretty amazing. So very cost effective, very time effective. But it was more that I got to work on my business. And we all know the importance of working on our business, right? We work in it constantly and we all get told, coaches and our peers and our advisory board members, you need to work on your business. And we often don't take the time. And this was a, a, a great way for me to work on my business. And I didn't do it for the letters, I did it for the experience.
I
But the
love
letters can be
that.
just as
And
important
what
for
was
others.
it that created that pivot point for you where, it is an investment of time, it is an investment of
Mm.
dollars, it does have to fit into your life. And what was it that you said, yes, this makes good sense to me? And look at the return on investment. My
Yes,
goodness, that speaks for itself. But what was it that
indeed.
was that pivotal moment that made you say yes?
It was the moment that I decided, as I shared, my income wasn't very high. I was doing part-time work, and I went, actually, I've got to make a decision. Am I going to focus on my business and make this thing work? So I'd done it before, and I went, you know what? I believe that understanding what the master's degree will allow me to do, I'm going to dive in both feet. So I resigned from my position and I gave Navigate 100% of my attention. And I decided this is the make or break time. So created time, created space, arranged payment plans that worked for me. And this is the time that I have to now focus on my business because I was so passionate about it to make it work.
I
And
love
this
that.
was the reason to do that.
Yep, I love that. That's beautiful. Now,
Yeah.
the punchline, you noted that your income has jumped pretty substantially because you were able to really work on your business in the MBA. So tell us about, again, maybe it's clarity around your business, maybe it's a level of confidence, maybe it's some significant changes in direction or strategy
Mm.
that
Mm.
really yielded the kind of results that you've experienced. But tell everybody a little bit about the results and really what
Yep.
you think helped lead to those dramatic jumps in performance for your
Mm.
business because of the MBA.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is you can see the brand sitting behind me, and I had it completely rebranded because one of the subjects was a marketing subject. I went, okay, well, let's dive into that. I felt that I was pretty good at marketing, but I think I just knew enough to be dangerous, not necessarily effective. As I think a lot of business owners have that outcome. So it was, well, it's now time to dress up the brand and make it look more professional and make it resonate and really connect to me. And it was super interesting. You can see the infinity symbol in my logo. That was an original logo style 10 years ago. And I think when I joined Leadership Global, it was quite different. It was something that I'd taken over, and didn't look like that at all. And when I worked with the brand, I went and got a branding company to help me, and they came up with that, and I went, "Oh my gosh, have you seen my? Did I give you my old logo?" And she said, "No, no, we came up with that ourselves because what you do creates infinite opportunities within business." I went, okay, cool. This logo has to stick because it's what we came up with 10 years ago, and I had, as I said, had enough information to be dangerous and changed it to what I thought was a great logo. So it helped me to polish the brand in the marketing subject. I did an artificial intelligence subject, which just absolutely fascinated me about how I can leverage using artificial intelligence to productivity in my business, how I can manage the cash flow better with insights and reports and all sorts of things like that. But the main one was the project which you were very generous and enabled me to involve Leadership Global with. And so the project was the capstone project at the end of the subjects. And I got to choose what that would be. And I'd often wondered why. So my project became, I often wondered why women in business didn't necessarily proactively source a coach until things went wrong in their business until the proverbial hit the fan, if you will. And why do women in business join amazing network groups like this? And I observed that often they would sit back quietly and not so much lead
Yeah.
and participate. And so yourself and another organisation, a couple of organisations here out of Australia, allowed me to create a survey, send information to your network and other networks around the country to get feedback about that. And it was incredibly intriguing that, as a general rule, most women didn't understand that there is a coach for every micro moment in business.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of people had the assumption I just need a business coach, a life coach, and they were going very general. And they didn't understand the importance of getting a coach before you need one. Like, when do you need a coach, Joanne? The minute you start your business, even when you're thinking about it, get yourself a coach. And there's lots of different ways to do that. Don't need to go into that. But also the networking piece. And it was often said to me, I like to sit back and watch because I aspire to be like the leaders in that networking group. And I would encourage them to say, actually, you've got a lot to offer. What can you do to lean into this? And what came out of that was the circle narrative, because circles is what sits in the logo that I've got. Everybody understands circles. It's millennia old. And that enabled me to really reframe what I do. I have gone back into the education sector here in Australia and surround myself with all the people that I need to lift me, but also to lift my service to my clients. And that was a direct result of the Master's Capstone Project.
Yeah. Since completing the MBA, your income has lifted by 250%, and your
Yeah,
client base has grown by over 500%.
correct.
Your pipeline is stronger. You feel like your work is higher value. The business that might have been stalling a bit is now absolutely taking off. It is hitting new heights. And Joanne, do you feel like a lot of those outcomes were due to the good work that you did in the MBA, really studying your
Yeah.
business and making some strategic pivots?
It absolutely was, and one of the subjects was around mindset and how you approach business, etc. So the other critical piece that I realised was I was generating income from something I wasn't talking about for the last 5 odd years. And I was talking often about my online programs, which you'd seen me do that over
Yeah.
the years that you and I have been together. I was very proud of that program. But I realized that I was getting anxious about that because it wasn't performing as it should have. But all the work that I was doing that was just coming to me without a lot of effort, wasn't advertising, it was just coming because people knew. I realized, having done this subject in my master's degree, that you know what, you should lean into your strengths. And so I decided to completely change what I speak about. So I just share what I know about, running an education business, helping women get their expertise into online courses, and understanding what it is to build a really great online program. Because I've done it for 20 years and had just not been speaking about it. And so, what the master's degree allowed me to do was to create the space to consider, what do I need? What do I want to do? I've learned all these strategies. What am I going to do that's not going to create stress and all those sort of things that we often feel when things aren't going to plan? And so, what it feels like today is so much lighter. I have never been busier, which could create its own level of stress if you allowed it. But I'm doing the things that I love and that I've learned over the last 25 years. And I'm now bringing it to the table for those people who want to learn those skills. And so I genuinely believe that the master's degree, I resigned from my role, focused on my business, and it gave me the space to really think about, what is my business here for? What is the skill set that I have that I can share? And then build from that capstone project the exact thing that I needed to deliver. So it was a
Oh my
direct
gosh, I
result.
love that, Joanne. That's just beautiful. Now, I know you have some slides to go into a little bit more depth about the opportunity, and now might be a good time to
Yeah, for sure.
offer a little bit more detail.
Let me just get myself organized. I can see we've got Stephanie here as joined us, which is wonderful. Right. Um, Sorry, just go back to Zoom. Need to share my screen first. Apologies. Go to depth.
And the other thing that I want to just note that I think is really interesting about Douceur is that they do allow a graduate certificate in artificial intelligence in just about all of their
They
programs.
do.
And that is so relevant right now. I just feel like that's so on point because
Yeah.
everyone is looking for experts in AI. Everyone is looking
Yes.
for sort of what the horizon looks like regarding AI.
Mm.
And if you have the knowledge, the experience, and the expertise to help be a guide in this whole new world order that we're creating with the AI, that just increases your value to your clients and prospective
Yes.
clients tenfold.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Now, just to clarify, what I'm showing you is Kennedy University, which Dessert owns. So, as I mentioned, Matt Jacobson launched Dessert Global Business School, and he is one of the few Australians in the US to own a university in the US. So, this is his university, Kennedy University of Leadership. The artificial intelligence content, I had a conversation last couple of weeks. He has had all the content changed and updated to include artificial intelligence all through it. Having said that, I don't know if I shared with you, Linda, but I've signed up for the Artificial Intelligence Graduate Certificate that starts in August as well, out of one of his other partner universities. So I'm back to the school books, which I'm very excited about, on artificial intelligence specific subjects. But what we're sharing with you today, is the US owned university that by Desert Global Business. You can see the logo down the bottom. So he owns this program, this university, and so I just wanted to share with you. I guess I've shared a lot of information in the verbal conversation between Linda and I would like to just share a few slides, not a lot, so that you can get a better sense of what Kennedy University is about and what they have on offer. So they have won so many awards. It's pretty incredible. What we're going to make sure, I'm not going to go through every slide with you because we can get a little bit tired of that. I know it's getting late in the afternoon for you guys, but we will make sure that you get a copy of this slide deck so that you can look at it at your own leisure. Linda has already generously shared my story about undertaking the master's degree. And it was as I said, it was always something on my bucket list to do. Never got round to it, did many, many other qualifications at a lower level. Actually, didn't think I was eligible to do a master's degree, but realised that that was not the case. I signed up in, when did I start? January 24, finished it in February 25. And wouldn't want to? I did mine through one of his affiliate universities out of Rome. Who wouldn't want to go to Rome to attend my graduation? Sadly, I can't make that. But whichever university you study through with, Sir, you are always welcome to attend the actual university because we deliver all these online globally. You can attend graduation wherever that university might come from. So they stand for a lot of important things. I know I saw an interview with Matt Jacobson a little while ago, and he shared something I'd never known. I knew he'd been to university as a young fella, did a university degree in law, started his first job in a law firm, and realised he knew absolutely nothing, which is not unusual to hear for those people who've attended university. It's an unfortunate outcome often of people who undertake not law degrees, but degrees coming straight out of school with the expectation that because they've got a degree, they jump straight into a high-paying role, etc. Now, it's not, this is a general statement, but it's not an unusual story that we've heard of. And this was something that made him very concerned and wanted to make a difference, even as a young man. I mentioned very briefly these world leaders. Now you can see the caliber of the people you get to listen to. I know there's no sound on, so you're not missing something on this slide deck, but it's to give you a sense of who these people are that you get to listen to. And I've deliberately put a number of females on here because I think it's important that we recognize that their leadership team is 50-50 male and female. Same with their actual global leaders that they've interviewed, some pretty impressive, amazing people that you get to listen to throughout the course. As I said, these are just the quick highlights of the degree. You learn from these global leaders. You won't find these conversations on YouTube. You can go find them on YouTube, but you won't see these conversations. Full library, don't need to buy textbooks. 12-month completion. Now, there is something that Matt shared with me that is not on these slides. There is a 100% guarantee refund if you don't make an impact on your role or on your business by completing your degree with DeSer. I've never heard a university say that before, and I have it in writing from him. So that's a pretty compelling piece for you to consider. This is the online platform. They use a platform called Canvas. It's one of the most renowned online platforms for education globally. I used it. It's incredibly easy to navigate. Everything is in there, your library, or your recommended reading, or the videos, or the content, and you can come and go through it as you please. Super easy to use, and on mobile or desktop, it's accessible. It's about learning. It's about self-paced. For me, when I undertook my master's degree, the time commitment for me that I was comfortable with and worked well for me was each weekday after dinner, I would spend about an hour of study. On the weekends, I would find 2 hours on the Saturday or the Sunday. And that was a very nice cadence for me that enabled me to be on time, get my questions answered. As I said, there's no exams, there's discussion papers, and there's a project. Literally that, with all the support and the guidance that you need in pulling that together. So that was a time commitment for me for what they would consider to be a full-time master's degree. Lots of case studies, incredible case studies of large organisations where we've got some degrees where you get to work on in global companies for their projects, and there's other degrees that you can work on your own business. So that's part of the conversation I would have with anybody who's considering to enrol as to which pathway they want to go. So look at the calibre of the organisations that they have relationships with to work on real projects, live projects, not dated 10-year-old projects that have no relevance to you today. They are all live. So they're always proactively looking for large global organisations for projects, if that's a pathway you choose. Eleanor on this screen is one of my clients, an Australian gal who was working for a large government agency, and she did an amazing job at her master's degree, and she went off to Rome to graduate last year. So she had an amazing journey, and she has since changed roles for a higher paid position as a result of her master's degree. So these are the caliber of the people. This is the director of Seek. I won't make you listen to that. You can. We'll make sure what we might do is send this to you in a show deck, not a PDF, so you can listen to some of these people should you like to going forward. You've heard my story before. Don't need to go through that again. One of the projects that I was privy to that Matt Jacobson shared with me, a large global company put 10 leaders through a master's degree, cost that organisation $83,000 for 10 people, not one. And their capstone project that they produced for their organisation resulted in a $200 million net profit increase as a result of the project they worked on. All documented, all shown to be valid, and he's got those ROI case studies time and time and time again. I just can't. I could talk about this for a long time about the impact that it makes. Graduation, wherever you choose to go. Very, very quickly, these are the leaders. That's Matt Jacobson himself. I'm not going to go through each of these slides in a great lot of detail. One thing I will mention is the application process. I know traditionally applying to a university for a degree, whichever level you're going for, is onerous and difficult. The online application process for DeSer and particularly Kennedy University will probably take you about an hour if you're lucky. Online program, resume, couple of reference letters, ID, and a letter to the school as to why you would like to do this degree. That's it. There's no difficult hurdles to achieve. Kennedy, you do need to hold a degree, and if not, there's lots of other options that I can talk you through. I'll just quickly show these slides, won't go to a lot of detail. just to show you what Kennedy has, an executive master's degree, a global master's degree. This is pretty neat. First in the world, space leadership program, an MBA in that. And that is for anybody who's involved in the industry that has stuff in the sky, planes, satellites, anything. If anybody who's watching this or listening to this has a business that is in the supply chain of space, of aeronautics, etc., first in the world, space leadership. It's pretty incredible. So what are we looking for? I'm looking for 30 people. Women, happy to have men, of course. One circle. University of Kennedy. Intake starts on the 3rd of August. I'm looking for 30 people. And what I would love to do is to mentor you all together over that 12 months. It's super important for me that if you're going to undertake the time commitment, the cost commitment, to undertake a master's degree, I want to work with you to make sure that what you're learning is applied to your role, to your business, because there's nothing more important than doing that. And why wouldn't you do it? And there you can see in writing 100% money back guarantee. As I said, I've never heard a university offer that before. We are so confident that these master's degrees will make the difference that you're potentially seeking.